Hello, everyone, and welcome to another special edition of Rocket.Chat online session. My name is Christina, and I'm head of demand generation here at Rocket.Chat. I'm going to be your host today. So I believe that many of you today know that Rocket.Chat is an open source communications and team collaboration platform. So to make this even more transparent and open to everyone, we decided to, for the first time ever, do an online Rocket.Chat product roadmap reveal. And there is no better people to do that than our CEO, Gabriel, and our VP of Product, Christopher Skelly. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining me. This is a very exciting session. I'm going to be with you shortly. Let me just speak to the audience a little bit. So same as every time, this is the audience first session. So we really encourage you to use the questions tab that you see on your right-hand side to ask any questions you might have throughout the session. Christopher and Gabriel will be answering these questions. And because there is just not enough time for us to, cover everything we want to say about Rocket.Chat, you can also use the polls tab on your right-hand side to let us know if you want to learn more about Rocket.Chat, and then we'll reach out to you. And then also if you're interested in learning more about partnership opportunities with Rocket.Chat, you can also use the polls tab to hit yes. All right. Well, thank you to the speakers again. And now I'm going to hand over the mic to you. But let me just ask the audience first where they're coming from. I'm going to start with myself and say that I'm from Croatia. Let's see where you guys located. I was doing some analysis yesterday, and I saw that we had registrants from all over the world. Welcome, Finland. Hi, guys.
Portugal, there's people South Africa, Russia, everywhere.
Hello.
Mars.
Hi.
Mars, all right. Elon Musk has had his way, I guess.
Hey, Canada. Hello,
Awesome.
England. Argentina, India, Germany. Nice. This is very exciting.
All right,
Welcome, guys. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the world, I guess. Awesome.
Welcome.
All right.
Welcome. Yeah, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for making the time. It's a very special webinar for us today where we want to share, and it's a broad sharing here, right? We're going to be sharing things that we are currently already working on. Some of those things are still on the exploration phase. It's really trying to give a broad vision of where we see the product going, the things that we are building. More like on trends. We try not to go to very specific on technicalities on each of those features because, like I said, some of those still is an exploration. But as a first edition, we love all after that also to hear your feedback. Did we go? Maybe you guys would want us to go deeper, maybe on how some of the things are going to be implemented in the future. Was it a good level of specificity just to trigger the conversation? So we love to hear the feedback as well. Like, bear in mind, this is the first time we're trying to do this. We want to make this recurring. So the feedback about the format is very welcome. And bear with us if we didn't get completely right on the first attempt. So give us some help here. And
okay.
So Chris, all yours.
All right. Let's go ahead and dive into things. And again, thank you everyone for joining us today and giving up your valuable time to be part of this. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in, and we're going to be taking you through our roadmap. Our theme today that you will hear throughout the discussion is take ownership of your conversations. So you'll hear that theme repeating, and you'll see it in some of the initiatives that we have underway and that are planned as well. Okay. To get started, for anyone on the call who is not familiar with Rocket.Chat, I do want to just give a very brief introduction. So at Rocket.Chat, we focus on data protection in every conversation. We believe that has to be fundamental to what we do. and is core to directing our roadmap. So you'll hear us talk about data protection, data privacy, data security, which is absolutely critical. And I think most people know the Rocket.Chat platform well, but for those who don't or are just getting introduced, we enable our users to connect and collaborate with 4 groups. First, team collaboration. Collaborate with your team. Second, you'll hear us talk today a lot about interoperability. And we believe that connecting with other organizations is core to team collaboration. You know, gone are the days where you can just think about your own team. Now you have to be able to connect with your suppliers. You need to be able to connect with your business partners, your contractors, et cetera. So we'll be talking a lot about interoperability today. Communicating with your customers is also an important side of Rocket.Chat. And you'll hear us talking about our Omnichannel customer communication capabilities and what we're doing on that front. And then lastly, Rocket.Chat can't exist as a silo. So connecting your critical apps, workflows, integrations is a big part of our roadmap as well. So for those who don't know us also, we have a lot of traction. This community is growing very quickly because of people like yourselves who are investing time working with us. We've had code contributed by over 1,000 developers worldwide. We have 12 million registered users across 150 plus countries. I think maybe we have all of them on the call right now, which is very cool. And Rocket.Chat has been deployed over 800,000 times, 800,000 server deployments. So that's something that is really exciting for us. And kind of lastly, just as an intro, one of the themes that we think about in our roadmap is that we are always open source. We want to be always improving, always secure, and I'll add one in here as well. Always extensible, which is really important for this developer community to ensure that you can craft the Rocket.Chat core to meet your needs. Okay. So. As I mentioned, we'll be a little bit repetitive at times in terms of data protection. That's intentional. And so we wanted to open and talk a little bit about what we think of as the definition of data sovereignty and data ownership. From our perspective, there are really 2 key aspects to data sovereignty. First, you do have to consider taking physical ownership of your conversations. Right. There are some really great and powerful multi-tenant cloud collaboration tools out there that we in no way deny. But the important thing to remember is that oftentimes those vendors don't disclose how your data is handled. You don't have any control or auditability of the code base that you depend on. Oftentimes there are no self-managed deployment options. And, it's really a mix in terms of regulatory compliance tools and high quality security features. And so, for some organizations who are more focused on convenience and getting up and running, some of those organizations may be comfortable with compromising on some of those physical data ownership considerations. But we believe that for a large portion of the world, a lot of types of organizations, those sorts of compromises should be disqualifying. So we focus on delivering a platform that doesn't require you to make any data sovereignty compromises. And the second aspect is more of a practical consideration. To own your data, you also need to be able to manage it well and get at it and find the conversations that matter to you. And we feel like it's really important to simplify enterprise and organizational communications. As we all know, sometimes overall communications for an organization can turn into a little bit of a hairball, right? You have too many channels that silo communications. You have conversations that end up held captive in too many systems. Really important conversations. So the discussion about an opportunity in Salesforce, the comments on a document in Quip, all of the comments and discussion on a Jira or Asana task. those conversations can easily end up trapped. And we're looking to solve that and use Rocket.Chat as a way to improve on that and make sure that you have universal conversation search mechanisms and that you have the interoperability with those systems that we talked about before. Okay, so that's by way of introduction. We talk about data sovereignty. Those are the two key things that we're thinking about. Okay. All right, so before we get into all the specifics and all of the cool initiatives that we're working on, one thing that we wanted to open up with and talk about first is our community edition. And for anyone who's not familiar with it, our community edition is our free open source edition. It will remain that way. And if you think about a, call it Venn diagram with our enterprise edition and future paid products that we may roll out, there's always a pretty significant overlap. So the success of this community is dependent upon continuous improvement to the community edition. There have been times that we haven't been able to drive that exactly the way that we want to, but this is a key focus for us. We believe that with the growth of the community, we are in a position to be able to formalize our processes on continuous improvement. So to hit on a few of the items, our community team is already working on monthly community discussion events. We need input. We also don't want to live in our own silo. This community has been a big driver of the platform, so we want to have a formal process for collecting that. Also, we want to improve our release planning transparency. We won't always be able to tell you many months from now what is going into a release that impacts community edition, but we're looking to improve the distance that we can see, to lengthen the period of ahead of us that our headlights can shine a light on, so that we can get input from the community on what we're working on. Okay. The third piece is really important. As we work to continue to strengthen our community, part of that will be paid products, and that's important for any healthy open source company to ensure that we're properly funding innovation within the core platform. We want to make sure that we're consistent and transparent on decision making. So Gabriel has been spearheading a process to formalize our stewardship principles. So we're writing those up. Pretty soon we'll be posting those for comment and input from this community. That's an important step. And a couple other things: documentation, training, certification. The way I think of it is we have a lot of incredible capabilities within the platform, but if we don't have the right documentation, the right training process, it's kind of like having a beautiful city in the middle of nowhere with no highway to it, no rail lines to it. These are the mechanisms that we have to have in place to allow all the people on the call today to really unlock the capabilities of Rocket.Chat. So we're significantly growing the technical documentation team. Also, the community and training teams will be launching certification programs later this year. I think I just held their feet to the fire on getting one of those out in fourth quarter. So, and then lastly, I'm going to save some of this for later, but Apps Engine and Workflow Studio. So we have an existing Apps Engine. We're also investing pretty heavily in that to turn into a full developer toolkit, and then also add a new offering that we call Workflow Studio. The purpose of both of those are developer enablement. So I'm going to save the rest till later, but that's a key part of how we think about community as well. Okay. All right, so the 4 facets of Rocket.Chat. We've already kind of touched on them, but this is how we're organizing our flow through the roadmap. Team collaboration, so your team. Second, intercompany communications. We'll be talking about interoperability. Third, customer engagement, where we'll be talking about omnichannel and different ways to communicate with customers. And then fourth, as we mentioned, apps and integrations, making sure that you can tie Rocket.Chat into your existing systems, extend the capabilities in probably ways that we haven't thought of. Okay. All right, so facet 1, I'm going to take you through a couple of the things that we're doing in terms of team collaboration. So I'm going to touch on these, and then we can pause for a moment. As Gabriel mentioned, we're keeping these pretty high level. So please ask questions if you have them. Also, as a reminder, feel free to reach out to us afterwards, and we can provide additional details where available. So first item, video conference call management. So one of the things that we have heard in talking to our users is there's a common theme that we have organizations that use their Rocket.Chat workspaces extensively, and their team is working within Rocket.Chat all day long. And then as soon as they have to jump on a call, they jump out to a separate video conferencing system. And that's just not a great way to work. So we are working on integration of video conference options where we're going to follow a choose your own provider model. What we're focusing on is the ability to, if you want to choose an open source video conferencing tool, great. We provide the ability to activate that. If you want to use a third-party commercial tool, yes, we will support those as well. And in some cases, if an organization wants to have multiple tools for multiple purposes, things that they use for external presentations versus team discussions, we'll support multiple options. Okay. In association with that, we're building the workflow into Rocket.Chat rooms to be able to initiate a conversation from a Rocket.Chat room on any device. And then also we will be working to make sure that those calls can be received not just on desktop, but on mobile as well. Okay, so we're super excited about this one. And again, it's all about making sure that we have interoperability, whatever tools our users want to use, we want them to be able to access them within Rocket.Chat. Okay, object linked channels. This is an item that we have in discovery right now, and we're digging into it and working on it. As we talked about early on, there are a lot of siloed conversations that are stuck in other systems, and that's a problem in terms of search and discovery and access to those conversations. It's also a problem in terms of portability. Salesforce, great platform. If you have all of your discussions on your leads and opportunities within Salesforce and you decide to move to another tool, it can be challenging. And so what we're working on with object linked channels is the ability to automatically create channels and threads associated with external business objects. So it could be that Quip document that I mentioned before. It could be an Asana task, could be a Salesforce opportunity, that as those objects are created, as conversations exist in those silos, we're creating the ability to import those conversations into Rocket.Chat. And again, when we talk about portability, we talk about data ownership. Yes, those conversations still may exist in a cloud multi-tenant platform, but by ingesting that content, making it available to your organization, you get that ownership, you get portability, and you're not essentially stuck with vendor lock-in. Okay. All right, so that's the concept. This is new. One thing to note on here, as I'm sure everyone on the call has guessed, we will of course be subject to restrictions by source systems. So where we have the API access to ingest these conversations, we'll be able to do that. And some systems will be restricted. And this will also be progressive in terms of different platforms that we support for object linked channels. That'll be something that evolves over time in terms of our overall supported systems list. The last thing to note on here, we do think that our first phase is all about ingesting conversations that occur elsewhere. As we progress, the natural evolution will evolve towards also conversing on those threads in those particular object associated conversations from Rocket.Chat. That will definitely be a second phase. Okay. All right. So this one it's a little bit of what I'd refer to as blocking and tackling or foundational. But permissioned workspace search and overall workspace-wide search. I'd love to say that we felt like our search capabilities are where they need to be, but they're not right now, and that reflects, the rate at which Rocket.Chat has grown, and this is an area that we have to catch up on, both in terms of what we currently have in place, and then as soon as you think about object-linked channels, one of the key ways to unlock the benefits of that is a workspace-wide search. So a key part of our roadmap will be permissioned, of course, always workspace-wide search. Okay. All right. So to pause for a minute, I know I've been talking a lot. So Gabriel, anything other items that you want to mention relating to the team collaboration facet of the roadmap?
No, I think the component here that strikes me the most is excites me the most is this object linked channels. Maybe the name doesn't sound very exciting. We have been playing around and calling it like a hyper contextualized chats. And what we're trying to achieve here is not only make Rocket.Chat capable of aggregate conversations that are happening in different places into one place, but also create channels which have a purpose for existing, right? That the context of the conversation might be an issue that was created, might be like the task or the document, and that it's, I think, a very good improvement on channels. For instance, in the beginning, you only have those never-ending channels. You talk about having a marketing channel, and then you have all those different topics or subjects being discussed inside the marketing channel. Sometimes it's hard to know when a topic started, when it ended, if all the comments, like, they're going to be combined and merged together with different other topics that are going on. So I think a lot of different chat solutions end up creating the threads mechanism, right? Where you kind of fork the conversation into a thread, but the thread is still suffer a little bit of the same problem where you never know when that thread, if the topic was finished, is it settled, was a conclusion for that conversation, and we end up creating with some people in the community, the guys from Deutsche Bahn and some other companies helped us to build the discussions, which were then almost like these sub channels. They still have the context of happening inside a parent channel, so it's a conversation that still belongs to, for let's say, marketing, but you have a set of the individuals participating. You have the topic being explicitly defined, and so on. And then what you see this object link channel is this next level where let's say a discussion would be really integrated into an issue, so you can even have the status of the issue, because when the issue is closed, you can mirror that into this channel, like into the discussion, and have the visual tips of what is going on with the topic that you are discussing. And we want to make this in a way that the apps engine will be able to create what those custom fields are for a channel. So they'll be much more capable of representing the object inside the context of Rocket.Chat, and synchronizing the status of what's happening on the external object. And the fact that it's flexible means developers will be able to create all those different kinds of channels, all those different kinds of flows or status and properties that a channel might have. We believe this is going to make the conversation a lot easier for you to find with this permission workspace search, to find conversations by type of channel they were linked to, or you make a comment, you'll be able to find what object you are easily referring to. So I think this is one of the things that excites me the most. It's a lot of work on the UI, not just on the APIs and the flexibility on the apps engine to build those things. But you guys are going to see some very interesting developments on the UI space to make those things able to happen. So
yeah, as Martin just commented, yeah, the UI is intense, and one thing to note on here is from a UI navigation concept perspective, object link channels becomes a search driven navigation. And so it is a search first process, which is why that permission workspace search goes really hand in hand with object link channels.
Right. Thank you, guys. We still have a lot of things to cover, and there's tons of questions. So I'm pretty sure we won't be able to cover all of them, but we'll make sure to get back to you later on. We did have multiple questions on the video conferencing, such as, can I integrate virtual conference into our existing system? Or can I host an event with 2,000 participants via virtual conference?
Yes, we've already have different online events that have done this. Sometimes even more a bigger audience than 2,000 participants. Some people integrated with Big Blue, use one of our integrations with Big Blue Button or Jitsi to do the conference. If you get the name of the person, you can even get the people involved on that project to give a little bit more of a feedback on how it was actually achieved. But it definitely can be done. Christina, I was going to ask, can you please invite maybe Rodrigo Nascimento, our CTO, to be one of the participants so he can help with the questions? I can see there you have so many questions that maybe Rodrigo can go and start working already, replying to some of those and help us get the most replies.
I am going to try, can't promise.
Okay.
I will see what I can do.
Okay, Christina, should we continue through the next section, and then we will have a block of time for questions at the end as well?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, terrific. Okay, so the second of our four facets, collaborating with other organizations. So this topic is all about interoperability. So we'll keep it at fairly high level. We'll provide a quick introduction. Gabriel and Rodrigo will keep me honest if I go astray on this, but this is really important for us. Again, no system should operate and no team collaboration tool should operate in isolation. Interoperability is vital. We would love it if everyone in the world would use Rocket.Chat. We wouldn't have to worry about it, but that will probably not be where we are. So a few key items. We have an existing Slack bridge capability that needs to be improved on. So we are, very first thing we're doing is we're improving our Slack bridge, and we'll also be building out a Teams bridge as well. So those are not what you would think of as true federated channels or federated communication, but the bridges ensure, as I said before, interoperability. Secondly, federated channels. So as many people on the call already know, we support federated channels across Rocket.Chat workspaces currently, and we're looking to expand our federated channels capabilities to also support matrix protocol messaging systems. So as part of doing that, we're currently in the early stages on development. One key thing to note is that as we proceed in our first stage, the way that we're enabling this is essentially with a matrix protocol compliant bridge. And the reason for that is it enables us to work within our current data structures, our current event structures, to tie to matrix protocol compliant systems. So that's a key step for us as we continue in this. We're really impressed with a lot of the capabilities that we're seeing, but we also recognize that there is not a definitive final winning protocol. So we're enabling matrix protocol at this point. Hopefully that will provide a lot of value to community members. Okay.
Yeah, we could see that there was a lot of similarities with the solutions that we came up with and how we developed our own federation protocol. and some of the concepts from the Matrix protocol. So it's not too hard to start doing this matching algorithm to do this bridge. And then we are already on this exploration phase. We have a working version, internal working version of this, very like in the basic working version. But we are putting more and more resources and team dedicated into making it work, and the team on Matrix is also like helping us to get there. So I'm very excited on the initial results.
Yeah. Okay, and two other items that we wanted to highlight that are very much in the discovery phase. And again, the theme of interoperability and trusted objects comes into play here. So first, smart contracts, and for those who aren't familiar, smart contracts are essentially based on a programmable blockchain structure, and so we're currently looking at use cases for smart contracts within Rocket.Chat. And what we'll likely be doing in this area is focusing on some use cases where smart contracts are being used effectively, and use them within our Rocket.Chat environment in terms of customer communications and inter-organization communications. To give an example of smart contracts, again, they're programmable blockchain objects that once certain conditions are met, then processing will continue, an event will continue. And so they're locked in, they are immutable, they cannot be changed. And so they serve as a trusted object. To give three examples of established use cases that are out there that are successful applications of this technology. Escrow agreements in the financial world, that once particular conditions are met, the escrow agreement will execute. Insurance claims, exchange of health records, which, going back to our discussion of data sovereignty and protection and privacy, is really important. So smart contracts can be used to confirm the release of health records as well. So we're exploring the use of smart contracts for specific functions like that. As mentioned, very much the discovery phase, but it's an area that we're really excited about. Okay. And then fourth, immutable history. Again, to go back to the theme that I was mentioning before, it's about interoperability, trusted objects, trusted communications, and structures that support immutable history in a federated data store is a way to, again, ensure that communications are valid, trusted, and consistent. And Gabriel or Rodrigo, invite you guys to comment on that front.
So I'm not sure Rodrigo was able to. We were able to add Christina.
I was just being nice and including. Just kidding, Rodrigo.
I'm just speaking with Rodrigo to see if he can join. So hopefully he can soon. Let me just keep working on it.
Yeah, no worries. Anything to add on that front, Gabriel? Otherwise, we can continue along because I know we have a lot of questions as well.
Yeah, I was even looking at some of those questions around this. For instance, the whole smart contracts immutability as being part of those blockchain concepts that we're borrowing to building the federation. Because when you, like I said, when you look, what is a conversation that is shared among different organizations, that is not, it basically is a shared database. And blockchain was a technology developed to really solve the distributed database model, right? So that's why we borrowed some of those concepts, and as a result, we end up also having the ability to create smart contracts and immutable history as part of the intrinsic design. And when you, and like I said, if you think about communication between companies, those type of immutable history or trusted, the ability for you to trust the sender, trust the integrity of the message, it's key when communicating outside the organization. So those are kind of added benefits of the protocol and then the way it's implemented. And I think that's the key thing that we all missed on the email world. Like it's a ubiquitous technology that is decentralized, is distributed, open, but we don't have this trust that the mail was delivered. We don't have this trust of the sender. We don't have the all those things are missing from the user experience. So what we're trying to do is how can we make sure we build a tool that respects all the nice things from the email world about ubiquitous and open and distributed and federated, but fixing it and giving these features from the blockchain. I think that's going to be a very powerful result for solution to be distributed.
Yep. Yeah, and to build on that also, just a key point here is blockchain is not an objective here. It's a mechanism that we can use to ensure trusted and immutable, distributed, federated data stores. And so that we're looking at this as a mechanism. But one thing to note also, as we get farther into each of these items, there are other mechanisms as well that we can dig into. But wanted to really highlight that in this case, the blockchain technology is a mechanism. It's a tool that we can use to achieve those outcomes. Okay. All right. So we're going to continue through. And Christina, what I'll try to do is progress through the next couple of sections pretty quickly. And then let's save a big chunk of time at the end for cycling through the questions.
Yep. Sounds good.
Okay. Omnichannel and communicating with your customers, really important area. So some key items. First of all, more channels, more features. This is really vital, and our focus is on being able to communicate with all of your customers, all of your users, your community members on the channel that they prefer, wherever possible. And so as people know, we do offer quite a few channels right now. We're adding new channels, but also improving existing channels. So we have an improved version of Facebook Messenger app coming out this month. WhatsApp 360 in conjunction with 360 Dialogue will be introduced soon. We also have active development in place for a new Instagram app and some upgrades on the Twitter side. So we're really excited about this. We're putting resources into again, achieving the goal of being able to communicate with any customer on the channel that they choose. Okay. All right. VoIP calls. The next two, these really go together. So voice over IP calls and contact center management. Each of these topics are cases where Rocket.Chat is being kind of pulled up market, call it, into larger scale contact centers. So in conjunction with a key partner, we're working on voice over IP, focusing initially on SIP server integration. And as part of that, also, we're introducing all of those capabilities that larger contact centers, larger customer service operations need in order to manage their operations efficiently. And so that comes down to message and call routing, message and call queue balancing, and making sure that agents and personnel are assigned in an efficient way across each of those queues. Call and message stream monitoring is important, and then other capabilities and automations to make those contact centers as efficient as possible in terms of canned responses, quick reply capabilities, automated conversations, and ability to work with multiple bot experiences as well. So each of those pieces, the thing to note here is that reflects Rocket.Chat being pulled more and more into those larger contact centers, and additional work that we're doing to make sure that we're providing the capabilities that are needed. Okay. And then last but not least in this area, amplifier. So this is an area that we're really excited about, as we've been building out Omnichannel our model has been reactive, essentially. Be responsive to customers. So customers initiate a conversation, and then we provide the tools, the channels, the capabilities to be able to respond quickly to those customers and have engaging, productive discussions. What shifts a little bit with Amplifier is we'll now introduce the ability to proactively trigger broadcast outbound messages. And we say broadcast, but keep in mind also that those messages can also be tuned based on the attributes of each user or customer to adapt and personalize the content. This is another area that we're really excited about, and that we shift in our omni-channel discussions to just responding, just being available and reacting when customers have needs, to now being able to proactively reach out to customers, reach out to community members, reach out to users to tell them about new offers, new capabilities, and this is again a pretty significant expansion. This is work that is underway and will be available soon. Okay. All right. Last section that I'd like to cover before we open up for questions. And this is an area that I'm really excited about. So to dig into it and describe some of the things that we're working on. Going back to what we said at the beginning, one of our key tenets is developer enablement. And we want to ensure that the way that we manage the platform, it's always extensible. And we believe that there are a lot of great ideas across this community for ways to integrate Rocket.Chat with other tools, ways to extend Rocket.Chat, and we want to enable those developers. So first, Apps Engine. Our Apps Engine that currently exists right now is pretty lean, and we are going to be expanding the capabilities of that Apps Engine into a full developer toolkit. For those familiar with the capabilities, to talk about a few of the specifics, that will include things like support for NPM packages so that you can work with external SDKs. It will include things like the ability to manage, register UI components within the Rocket.Chat interface, within a room, outside of rooms as well. It will also, over time, include exposing or bridging other core services in the Rocket.Chat core to Apps Engine to expand the capabilities as we go. Lastly, of course, when we think about interacting with other systems, you have to think about an OAuth engine. You have to make sure that you're authenticating properly and managing that efficiently. And so we'll also be digging into an OAuth engine to drive that process. We believe that with these components, like I said, we'll move from a fairly lean Apps Engine into a developer toolkit that allows the community, third-party developers, to effectively build high-quality, robust apps, Rocket.Chat apps, that can be used by their own organization, be shared as free apps on Marketplace, or be published to Marketplace as paid apps by publishers who choose to do so. So really excited about this. Work is already underway in terms of the expansion of Apps Engine. And as we progress, talking about those monthly sessions that we'll be having with the community, our updates on this front will be, I think, a key part of those discussions. Okay. Second item, AI services middleware. As we continue to see different uses of Rocket.Chat, different messaging events are natural hooks for calling different machine learning, AI, predictive analytics services. And as we see more cases where we have people calling multiple services for translation, for bot interactions, et cetera, there's the need to broker those and manage those. So we are beginning the work to design essentially a middleware that will act as an AI services broker. That's an early stage, as you guys can probably tell from my description, but an area that we're hearing from users and customers is really important. Okay. All right, and lastly, last but not least, Workflow Studio. This will Workflow Studio will be introduced after we complete the expansion of our apps engine. But the focus of Workflow Studio will be to enable non-technical admins and end users to define workflows and add those workflows to specific channels. An example, just to illustrate and tie a few of these pieces together. Let's say you have a federated channel with one of your suppliers. An example of a workflow, you can create a workflow that will open a form within a channel, a federated channel with your supplier, where they can go ahead and provide information about goods that they're shipping to your organization. And then the workflow can trigger adding that notification, adding that data as an advanced shipping notice in your Coupa implementation, for example. So we want to enable the creation, definition of those workflows by end users that can then be added to any channel. That can be an internal channel, that can be a customer-facing channel, or it can be a federated channel with another organization. So we're really excited about this. Important note, as I'm sure people have realized throughout the discussion today, we can't do all of these things all at once. We do expect this to come after the apps engine build out.
Yeah, and I think an interesting point about the apps engine, the improvements on the apps engine and its capability, broadening its capability. Like we mentioned, the object link channels, so like the contextualized channels, being one of the things that the apps engine will be able to create customized types of channels, but also we'll be able to create customized types of messages, of widgets on the sidebar. So there's the idea is really going to give the apps engine a lot of power to build apps that can create a lot of different components on the UI and not just be restricted to the interaction on the messaging history, right? So I think some people are making the question already on the questions about like if they were able to introduce different components or change the UI and have different rendering of the messages, and that's the whole idea. It's to give that kind of power, and that's also why this move that we've been on the journey of making transition on our UI to use React on the for all the clients, both on the mobile clients, Android, iOS, and on the web, is that's going to make it easier for us then to create React components that can be leveraged and still when developing the apps, you'll be able to create those components that can be shared on the React apps and then get the rendering that you need both on the native React Native applications and on the React applications. So even the stack has been now designed in a way to give this power to the apps.
Yep, makes sense. So a quick suggestion, Christina. I know that we had some security items to touch on as well. What I'd suggest, since we have a lot of questions, is let's pause here and let's make that the topic of our next community monthly to dig into some of those details, and let's dive into questions.
Sounds perfect. All right, we have a lot of questions, and I even think it would be a good idea for us after the event to put like a blog type of I don't know, either a blog or a document with all the answers so that we can share with everyone. But let's start with a few related to integrations. I saw a question, are you going to do the integration with Microsoft Teams? And then similar to that, is there any bridge for Mattermost in the road?
Yes, well, the Microsoft Teams is one that we're already looking into how to develop it, and we want to build and bridges into all chat applications. So Mattermost is definitely on the roadmap as well. Someone asked about Nextcloud as well, and yes, so the whole idea, we want to build those bridge as Rocket.Chat apps. So and once you build the blueprint on how can people can build those bridges, we also count on the community to help develop different apps that will be the bridges for all those different systems. We already built the bridges into WhatsApp and Telegram are built as apps. So we're turning everything into apps that can be installed and to serve those specific purpose. And it's easier for the community to help them to help us to build those bridges in that format.
Yeah, and it's a great point about WhatsApp being built as an app. And one thing to note also is that kind of gives us a chance to kind of dog food the apps engine capability. And so that effort right there, for example, is one where we know that building that internally, we've had to go outside of the core apps engine capabilities, but that provides us with a good map and guide for the additional capabilities that we want built into the apps engine developer toolkit.
All right. Thank you both, Gabriel and Chris. Let's move on to the next question. I try to put them in order to try to prioritize, but Gabriel, let me know if something is more important than what I'm reading here. A question, is there a way to forward a message from a channel to other channel using the interface like we do with WhatsApp? For example, an audio file that you have just saved in channel of Rocket.Chat.
So you can do forwarding of messages and trying to maybe, and we code them all the time, and actually we end up sending a link to the message, and it re-renders the message on the different channel. But I'm trying to remember if that was already if it's audio, if it follow if it will actually pull the digital file as well. I know that the text gets referenced, and we do use this all the time. I'm not sure if we have already implemented to audio files. If not, it's on the roadmap on the three on the update on the whole messaging system. We're looking at those missing concepts.
Sounds good. We'll make sure to send the answers after the event as well. On the omnichannel side, will there be an internal omnichannel queue so that user, for example, can directly contact the support team without joining the channel or knowing the person? So the support team can just use the omnichannel queue for answers, but users don't have to use the live chat app?
Yeah, so in short, yes. One of the key things to think about here is omnichannel kind of changes the structure of what we all think of as our sidebar in Rocket.Chat. Because of course you're still going to have all of your team collaboration channels, discussions, direct messages, but then you can have additional channels for each of your omni-channel apps, each of those connections. I'm not sure if I'm answering that well, but as part of the omni-channel build, we are also updating the sidebar in a number of ways to give essentially appropriate segregation between those customer discussions and team collaboration. One of the things that we've had users tell us about is the need to pull other members of a team into a customer conversation. I won't answer it well on the details of how we're approaching that, but the team is digging into it and actively looking at solutions in that area.
Yeah, just complementing my answer before, I've just tested it. If you right now the UX, if you quote or you get a link to a message and then you send to someone else, the system will render the original message as an attachment, so you get that feeling that as you has forward the message. But clearly the user experience, people would be expecting a forward button. So we're going to be working on that. So you can forward, but it's as a you need to get link and then paste the link into the other channel, and then you have the same experience, but it's not ideal yet.
So, all right, thank you. Continuing on the omnichannel side, I think there is a lot of interest in this side of the Rocket. So when Rocket.Chat Omnichannel will be fully integrated with Instagram and Facebook, not only for chat, but also for posts and comments?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'll answer that in probably a slightly different way. Social media monitoring and those activities, you really, as an organization, should look at those as customer communications. So an example of how we're addressing that on the Twitter side, for example, we are expanding the Twitter capabilities to include mentions. So mention can become a conversation the same way a direct message would, because those mentions should be addressed. I don't know the current state on, say, Instagram of that, but we are trying to be consistent. And so when there's logical social media monitoring activities and mentions that should be responded to, we should treat those as customer communications. I don't know the exact status, but that is something that we're digging into, like in that Twitter example.
Yes.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Another one about the connection between WhatsApp and Rocket.Chat from a user. To connect WhatsApp with Rocket.Chat, we have to use Twilio. And in this situation, we can send images or videos from Rocket.Chat to WhatsApp. Is there any solution to this?
Is it by choice that they're using Twilio, or because I know the new version of the WhatsApp app that we built was in collaboration with 300 Dialogue 360 or 360 Dialogue. I always get confused. And then in that implementation, we have fixed and implemented all like sharing voice attachments and pictures and all the kind of attachments. I'm not sure those updates have been passed on to other integrations. But if you need it right now, you could use the new version, but that requires you to have an account with Dialog 360. If not, we have to work on fixing the other integrations as well.
Yeah, and a note on there. As of this point, Rocket.Chat has chosen not to be a WhatsApp broker, and any organization that's communicating with customers via WhatsApp either needs to use a broker or be a broker, essentially. So our view is we do want to enable choice in the 360 dialogue approach, for example. We've worked with their team to facilitate adding your number, associating your number all from within Rocket.Chat. So we handle the provisioning and the association of your organization's WhatsApp number or numbers via that interface. As Gabriel was noting, there are a lot of brokers out there, including Twilio, and some of the integration will vary by broker.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We'll follow up on that question to the person that asked as well. I think we maybe have time for 2 more questions, and then again, we'll make sure to follow up with everyone else. Another question is multi-tenancy on a single Rocket.Chat instance on the roadmap for the future?
Not on. It depends on the concept of multi-tenant. I think not in the sense that you would have a different company completely isolated from another company on a single deployment. We don't have this concept of company ID on every record. We do have this concept of teams now, where you can have different teams can be created for different organizations or different business units, but they still see like the same branding, the same apps that are installed, the same users that they can talk to. So not the multi-tenant in the sense you have totally different organizations on a single deployment. Uh, but we think that we have tools to deploy different containers for each company and trying to slim down the size of each container more and more. And I think this is what gives the flexibility to do a customized branding and customized security on the database. So each company gets an isolated the digital, sorry, logical version of the database, easy to export to other systems. So we don't have on the roadmap to change that part of the architecture.
Okay. Thank you, Gabriel, for that. And then I don't know if there is a short answer to my next question, but I think it is a good question. We discussed a lot of different features today. How about their availability under the community free version versus the paid Rocket.Chat versions?
Yeah, that's a good question. The short answer is it will vary, and so the path that we're trying to follow on all features is to focus on two things. First, as I've said a few times, extensibility, and then secondly, we will have paid features that are packaged as such. As in going through the roadmap and all of the different pieces here, we're not at the stage with these items to say what would be paid and what would be part of community. And the commitment that we have is wherever possible, we're making sure to provide and expand on the extensibility within the community version, so that if a community user chooses not to use a paid feature, they do have the ability to extend the platform as they see fit if they choose not to pay. So going back to Apps Engine and Workflow Studio, for example, that developer enablement and making sure that we have the right tools to support extensibility is about us, to be frank about it, providing choice. So we always want to give people the choice to use the packaged paid application. And we need to make sure that we produce enough value in that solution so people select it. And then if people essentially choose to extend the platform on their own and roll their own, then we support them by providing the tools that they need to do that. But we don't have a specific pricing model for these items at this point, or lack of pricing model.
Yeah, and a lot of those things are going to be they have a portion of the community, right, and some of the more specific or event feature be turned into an enterprise on the enterprise edition. But if you think about on the apps engine, something that is on the screen right now, the apps engine itself is going to be something that is widely available, so everybody can build the apps and use apps. So those are the kind of investments that I think Christopher is referring here, where building the choice, building the engine, building the features and the framework for people to develop things on top. That's part of the core of the product, and it's going to be part of the community, right? And then it's only when you get to some of the specific advanced features or specific apps that we'll build that might be on the enterprise. But it's hard to put a list of what specifically right now, because a lot of the things are still being developed.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Gabriel. And I'm sorry that we didn't have time for all the questions. Again, we'll really make sure to reach out to every one of you that had a question. So same as every time, we finish our current session by announcing the next one. And the next one is going to be very special. It's called the Great Open Source Debate. I believe there's many open source enthusiasts here today. So we're bringing some great minds from the open source world, people who are very excited about open source. We'll have some controversial questions or statements where they will be debating until they get to the final answer if there are answers to those questions. So please use the call to action, the Save Your Seat button that you see on your screen right now. Don't worry, you won't leave this session. So I hope to see you all on October 27th. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to my speakers, and see you next month.
Thank you.
And one final note also, as Christina was saying, there are a lot of questions. So just cycling through those. We will have the questions, and we'll make sure to circle back with people. Okay.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.